Hello, everyone. This is still 1 minute for the workshop beginning. I'm just opening everything, so we are ready to begin the presentation at 4 p.m. Here in Madrid time. So in the meantime, let me tell you that at the bottom of the web page, you will see the Open Innovation Strategies material for the session. We will use some time to do a practical activity. So make sure that you can open it, and later on we will work in it. Okay. Okay, this is my first time doing a webinar, so I will ask for your patience and love. Well, we are doing this because this way to connect with many people at the same time and chat and interact with the page is new to me and interesting, of course. I'm really, really happy to be here with you today. Thank you, everyone, for connecting, for taking time on your Friday to connect and explore this concept about open innovation with me. So let me welcome all of you. I see that Maria Osuna has said good afternoon in the comments section. If you want to say hi, I will be reading the comments during the session, and this is supposed to be a workshop where we interact and talk. So I'm going to try and use one tool that I have here. It says ask a question. I will ask a question. Let me see. Okay, you can ask questions in the ask a question panel, of course. Hello, Jonathan. Hello, Saimar. Hello, Miguel Angel, and hello, everyone. Hi, Gabriel. Hi, everyone who is connected. This is nice. I have a first question for you. I don't know if you have a poll down there, where I am asking, what do you do in your life? Are you a startup, a corporation, academic, independent consultant, others? Let me know, what do you do for a living, so I can also adapt a little better the session that we are doing today. So please answer the poll that you have at the bottom of the screen. It seems that we have academic, a startup, and independent consultant. So this is going to be a good ride. And later on, we will try to do an experiment and collaboration, and I will invite, we don't have corporations, this is fun. I will invite you to participate. So whenever you want to participate, let me know, and I will invite you into the screen to comment. Okay? So let's begin, and we will shape it for this to be useful for everyone. I expect the session to last between 1 hour and a half and 1 hour 45 minutes, depending on the interest and how we are connecting today. Okay? Ready. Hello, John and Armand. Hello. So let's see. I think you're seeing my screen. This is the presentation that I'm using. Let me switch here. Here's my presentation. Okay. So welcome to this workshop about open innovation. I will ask another question before. Let me create a new poll right now. Have you heard about open innovation before? Do you know about open innovation? It's a simple yes or no answer. Before, yes and no. And no. Add an answer. Sorry. Okay. So please answer to the new poll I posted. Have you heard about open innovation before? Okay, this is interesting. So we have right now a good combination of yes or no's. Yes is winning, no is behind. Okay. Well, let me tell you that open innovation is my life and my passion. Okay, 6 yeses, 4 no's. I will try to do a mix of explaining also my own experience and the learnings and giving a broad scope about what's open innovation. Okay. First of all, let me introduce myself. My name is Marisol Menéndez. I'm an open innovation freak and geek. I discovered it around 6-7 years ago when I was working at BBVA, and I was in charge of creating and defining this business unit for this global financial group. And from the very beginning, it was a small department, and we took some time to understand what open innovation meant for BBVA and what open innovation meant for a corporation and for the ecosystem. Then, of course, we learned and experimented different ways of connecting with the startups, with vendors, with the employees, with everyone. And then I fell in love with open innovation. I have more than 20 years, and yeah, I'm old, of experience in consultancy, in engineering, in process analysis. I'm an industrial engineer with an executive MBA at IESE, and I'm trying to undertake a PhD in open innovation. Unfortunately, it's not as easy to do a PhD while you are working, but this is part of the work and the analysis that I learned through this time. And I love working with the startups. I travel a lot. I like to sing, although I don't do it really well. And I like to experiment and connect. So this is me. This is Marisol Menéndez, and I will share with you what I learned in these past 10 years about connecting and interacting. So first of all, let me establish a baseline about the official definition of open innovation. So open innovation, and this is my freaky side, sorry, this is a paper, an academic paper. You can access it here. If anybody wants it, you can ping me and I will share the documentation, of course. But this concept was coined by Henry Chesbrough, this guy, in 2006. And he was also from the business world. And he was, at that moment, working a lot with Xerox. And through some analysis, he came up to this concept, which he defined. And then later on 2013, he issued a correction. This paper, Explicating Open Innovation, is a correction about that initial definition after some time experimenting around open innovation. So if you like to read academic papers, this is a nice paper to read, explaining all the theories around open innovation. And the last part of the paper explains the definition. It's a full definition. It's really long, but here I wanted to explain the main variables that determine what is open innovation. And so here it is. Open innovation is a distributed innovation process based on purposefully managed knowledge flows across organizational boundaries. So let's dissect this definition. First, distributed. It means it's not concentrated in one place. We all remember these kind of companies, like, for example, pharma companies or these high-tech companies, when they had the innovation team in a secret building and they would scan your iris to let you in, and everything was super secret. It was centralized. Opposed to this model of closed innovation, open innovation is distributed. It can be, of course, geographically, but mainly is distributed among different players and different elements of the organization, or even different organizations, of course. It's an innovation process, okay? So it's not a methodology, it's not a handbook, it's a process, okay? And then based on purposefully managed knowledge flows. So it means that you need to do it on purpose. Accidental collaboration, it's good serendipity, but then it wouldn't be open innovation. And it means that you are with intention, focused intention, creating this innovation process where you mix knowledge flows across these different elements in the distributed process. So it's like building bridges and then making knowledge flow through these bridges. And it's important that this needs to happen across organizational boundaries. And it doesn't mean that it needs to be across different organizations. It means that we are breaking boundaries. So I'm sure that many of you know companies who work in silos and teams are not connected and they don't share. Here we create bridges to connect these teams and to make knowledge flow. And the interesting part, if you keep reading the definition, is that the purpose is to create value. And value doesn't mean to always do business. It means that you create value for the people who is collaborating and for others. And value can be knowledge, value can be data, value can be health, no, or even happiness can be value. As long as we are creating something better for those involved and maybe people outside, then we are doing open innovation, okay? So this is the basic explanation. This is the only hard academic part I will be explaining. Does anybody has a question with this? Open innovation is a distributed open innovation process based on purposefully managed knowledge flows across organizational boundaries. Are we okay with it? Anybody has anything to dispute with this definition? Okay, so you can ask questions. Very clear, perfect. So let's move. Now, how I will tell you about how I lived open innovation in my own experience, and what does it mean, for the humans, outside the academic papers, the practical approach to it. So for me, open innovation is create bridges, as I told that before. And then there's a game about sharing access and technology, and I'm not using it. Maybe I look for a partner who can use that technology to create a new process. But it might also mean that I have knowledge and I want to share it with others, and we create value with that, and others are hungry for that knowledge. And of course, now with the COVID crisis, we are seeing lots of these exercises, people telling, hey, I have one spare printer, I can create that. And so we innovate and create a new concept. But I like a lot this concept about sharing access and feeling scarcity. And also for me, this connects with the abundance thoughts and the Singularity University ideas they propose about escalating and creating value. Do you hear me now? Yes? Okay, we're back. Can you tell me what was the last thing you heard? Maybe it was the quote about collaboration as sharing access. Okay. So let me share the screen again. Okay, so we were here in sharing access and of course creating knowledge and so here what I was saying is that that open innovation is this game about sharing access and feeling scarcity. I also advise you to look into the exponential growth theories in Singularity University and maybe many others who are working around this concept. And that the important part about open innovation is that it has a practical application into creating real value, generating knowledge, improving, and it's not this distant looking innovation that we might think like, for example, exploring with drones or things of the future. No? Open innovation has a practical focus on creating improvement and value. And then I was sharing this and this is so exciting. I once in the offices of SAP, I found this quote that says that some of the most important future innovations will not come from new technologies, but from new forms of collaboration. And I love this quote, and I use it everywhere because I truly, truly believe that, of course, technology is important, but the real difference, the real transformations come from new ways of collaborations. And we see examples, for example, with Airbnb or Uber, who created a new way to collaborate and to connect people among people. No? And this is when we truly see difference in the world. Of course, collaboration is as old as humanity, but nowadays we have the challenges of, first of all, the technology, the speed that everything is moving, the number of thank you, and the number of people who are interacting at the same time to create this value. And even I'm amazed, I don't know if you are living the same thing, but now with the crisis, global crisis, we are seeing also that these new ways of collaboration are creating the dramatical transformation. And I'm sure that in the near future, we will see even more different ways to collaborate. And Jay, this webinar is one example of that, because I'm sure that we have people from all over the world. No? So this is connecting with an idea that I have, that at the end, innovation is a humanistic activity and not that technical. And it's all related to the people who are behind. And so I want to share now my experience and what I learned by doing open innovation at BBVA. And the first disclaimer is that because nobody, at that moment, there were no practices around this. BBVA was one of the first companies in the world to apply a formalized open innovation unit. At that moment, nobody told us anything was impossible, no? And it's like flying because nobody told you that you weren't able to fly. And it was exciting because we created, just by following this idea of finding new ways to collaborate, we created and understood a lot about of the organizations and how to unblock the power of collaboration. And now, so I left BBVA at the beginning of 2019. And from then, I've been working with lots of corporations and sectors and countries. I had this, I don't know why, but I always traveled a lot. I don't know from now on if I will be able to keep doing it, but I work with many countries and many cultures. And this cultural power is a common factor. So when I'm talking about the collaboration and open innovation in this sense, is how to connect and put together the different actors. Of course, the first of all, the corporations. In this general overview of the world, in the global scheme of things, corporations have the customers, they have infrastructure, like maybe technical infrastructure or even industrial infrastructure, whatever. And they have the relationship with the regulators, which is really important to really deploy a new way of working. Then we have startups, and startups are like the innovation lab of the world. The definition of a startup is that it's an organization who aims to prove a business model to see if it's scalable and that it will be doing business in the future. And so the nature of a startup is not to remain as a startup or a small company forever. And it's also to prove new business models. So in their nature, they are like an innovation lab of the world, where they can explore new ways of doing. They can go wherever the big fat corporations can't reach. The government sets the regulations, and the general infrastructure builds the roads where all the players can run, for example. Investors put money into the equation to make all this cycle work. So they are putting money into the general ecosystem. Universities are creating knowledge and looking into the future. And the hubs, accelerators, ecosystem connectors make sure that we create connections among these players that maybe didn't exist if they weren't creating these bridges. And in my perspective, sorry, I didn't realize that I was copying the animation. In my perspective, corporations are the bottleneck of this cycle, because they have the reach to the customer and the infrastructure. The cycle is dependent on them, on their own speed to assimilate this innovation, to make it available to the many, And so that's why I dedicate so much time into working with corporations and helping them to understand how to assimilate that innovation faster in their internal processes. And that's what I did in BBVA. And I learned that to make this work, there are 3 dimensions that we need to take care of. And that's what I wanted to share with you today. Okay, so I will take maybe the next 15 minutes to giving you an overall scope of what I think is the structure, and we will do the exercise in the workshop, okay? So there are 3 dimensions to make sure that organizations can integrate or assimilate open innovation. And, when we were doing this open innovation definition at BBVA, and in many other companies that I've been working with, they have the innovation team who are working for a specific idea, but if you ask them, how is the activity that you are doing related or helping to achieve the global company strategy? In many cases, people don't know. And I remember in my case at the beginning, I was trying to understand what should we do within the open innovation process. And I was asking, what's the bank's strategy? Can anyone share me the bank's strategy? And getting to that document was complicated. And so my question right now is, how can we make sure that the company strategy and the innovation strategy are aligned so it can survive in the future? And of course, that the work of the innovation team is aligned and helping to achieve that company strategy. And of course, we can decide what shape can this open innovation take in order to help this strategy, because there are many ways to do open innovation. And so let me introduce you to the Awkward Yeti. I don't know if you have seen this comic, these comics. I follow him or her, I don't know, in Instagram, and I always laugh a lot. And he uses a lot of human body parts for the cartoons. And at some point I realized that it can help me to explain what I want to explain with open innovation. With this thing about the corporation strategy and the innovation strategy, for me, it's like sometimes the corporation strategy is like the brain, that it needs to get results, to look into the execution and the shareholders' benefit and all the hard and rational things. and that the innovation teams are like the heart, like fall in love, they want to do beautiful things, no, and they have the cool offices, and sometimes we need to make sure that the heart and the brain are aligned and working together. And of course, innovation doesn't make sense if it doesn't follow the strategy. And as the heart, it will be a disaster without the brain. No? Let's see what's happening here. I'm going to introduce you to we're still connected, no? Yes, okay. To the Open Innovation Strategy Canvas. The Open Innovation Strategy Canvas is a thing I came up with more or less 1 year ago while trying to explain how can we think about this alignment of the company overall strategy and the innovation strategy. And I hope that you like it. It's work in progress, and I published it on the Creative Commons. So if you want to use it, you are free to use it as long as you cite the source. And we can also work together, and it's also under improvement and continuous learning. So what I did here is identify the main variables that are in the mix of the strategy and find a way for us to discuss it with others in a simple way. Okay, I got inspiration from the business model canvas. I called it Open Innovation Strategy Canvas, and it has all these variables grouped by main categories. So we talk about strategic variables, internal organization variables, and open innovation variables. And the idea is that we think about, and also purposefully, we think about these variables and take time to reflect and think what is our position within these different dimensions. I will explain it because that's our activity for today, so I won't take a long time to explain it right now. But what I usually do is I print out these big papers with the canvas, and people write in them, selecting the things that they are doing right now and where they see each other in the future. And so we can see differences, no? And it's an easy and simple way to discuss our perspectives on innovation. For me, what I try to unearth here is what I call the mystery of the secret strategy. We need to make sure that everybody's aware of what is our position right now and where we are going with this. And this is the thing that happened to me when I was asking for the strategy. Oh, I can share the strategy with you because it's super important, it's super secret, or I can share with you this slide, but please don't tell that I sent it to you, no? No, of course I'm not voting for publishing secrets, but what I say is that everybody needs to know where are we going as an organization and to see exactly where does my piece fit into building the future that we try to do together. And also, what I say is the mystery of the schizophrenic strategy is like, yes, we want disruption, we want innovation, but please without risk, because I don't want to have any risk, or I want certain results. Give me this business plan and immediate results of your disruption. And frankly, it's one or another, no? And so, but if we explore these variables, we can identify these inconsistencies in the strategy. And I can tell you, what I learned is that the vast majority of the times, these inconsistencies are accidental, and also they bring the most of the pain and frustration of the people in the organization. No? It's like, I know that I need to do this, but I'm not allowed, or my bonus is calculated in a different way, I can't help you, and it creates stress and, frankly, unhappiness in the teams. So if you feel a pang of unsettledness, maybe it's time to explore some of these variables. So, are you ready for the exercise? Yes? Let's go to the practical side of the workshop. And So as I said, usually I print this out and we use stickers and it's like a time for playing. But now we need to devise new ways to do this. So I came up with a PowerPoint. The link for the Google slide is at the bottom of the page. It's a button that says OE Strategy Canvas Material for the Session. Open it and you will open a Google Drive. And let me share my screen here. I will share now. Share screen. I will share the desktop so I can change. So you will see this thing, which is like a common whiteboard for everybody to work at the same time. I did it already one time and it was marvelous. I hope that you enjoy it. So the first thing is that everybody should pick one slide and write your name on top. Make sure that you are not overlapping yourselves. Choose one and write your name here, the name of your company if you want to disclose it, or something that that says that you are that this is yours. Can you edit? I don't know if this, what I don't know in this case, if you can be in the page and then in the Chromecast at the same time. This is something that you can practice also, of course, later, but it's a fun way to do your own thinking right now. Let me know if, just read access. Let me see. Okay, here we have anyone with the link can edit. Done. Close it and open it again so you can update the access to the document. Let me make sure that it's okay again. Okay, it's done. Close and open. Okay, you can close and open and yes. So choose your own slide, put your write down your name. And this is a fun way. So here are your set of stickers and you can move them around. And these are like, we will be working in this exercise. It seems that slide 3 is free. We have 2 people in slide 2, 2 people in slide 5. Write your name, people, write your name. So nobody takes out your own slide. Okay, we're ready to go. Let me go to my PowerPoint. So this is the Open Innovation Strategy Canvas. We will fill it today. And the activity, let me see if I can share the PowerPoint just right now because it's better. And today what we are going to do is move around the stickers. And the exercise is we move one sticker to the right side to say how is our present, and the sticker, the green sticker in the left side, saying how we would like the future to be, okay? And maybe if you are not in a company, if you're a student, if you are, think about any project or anything you want to do. If you are in a company and you are not the CEO, you can think as the CEO or you can think as the current role that you have. This is right now just a reflection exercise, okay? We will be reviewing dimension by dimension, and you will need to select what's your option in each of the variables, okay? Ready? Okay, so let's begin with, maybe you will have questions, but let's go one by one and it will be clear for you, okay? So let's begin with the first variable. The first variable is a variable related to strategy and is the distance to the core. So when we are talking about collaborating with others, and if we're in a company, we need to think about how far we let people into our own company for this innovation process. So, for example, if I think of the example of BBVA, at the beginning, we were working more in the outer layer, or what I call the crust, into doing experiments on maybe some more marketing and web-related projects, no? And as time passed, we were working with people with more related to the core processes, and even maybe creating financial processes, products with others, no? And so how far are you willing to let others get into your own business to work with you? And so you need to think about, let me see, you need to go to your own slide. Okay, let me share the screen again. Okay, Chrome tab here, sure. We go to your slide and select what's the current strategy that you have and what's the vision for the future, okay? And so, for example, in this case, maybe we are working in the mid-layer, maybe more tending to the crust, but we would like to have others collaborating with us into core product, into our core and improving core projects. There are so many interesting exercises right now. We are seeing how some corporate retailers are creating new business models with others and putting their own capabilities for others to explore. So take 1 second to move your stickers around and select the options that you are working with right now. A triangle in the left, and circle in the right, present and future. Okay, any questions? Okay, next variable. Let me change to the, okay. Next variable is the distance to the core. Sorry, the time frame is when do you want to get results with the innovation activities that you are doing? And this might seem some simple, basic question, but it is not. Because if you ask, for example, all the members of the board, they might have different answers for this question. Some guy closer to operations will say, short term, I need to improve my day-to-day business, no? Maybe somebody in the strategic team might say, no, but we also need to look in the long term. And the important thing is that we agree upon where is our bet. And you might use many stickers, and you can say, I want to work in the short term, in the midterm, and in the long term. It's also valid to look into the 3 dimensions. And of course, there are theories talking about what should be the balance on investment on different horizons. Usually it's said that you need to dedicate 70% of your budget to improve the short term, 20% for the midterm, and 10% for the long term. So looking at the same time to all variables. So go to your own slide and select what is, and put a sticker on the move one of the triangles in the left, in the sticker row, and move it to the selection of what you are doing right now. Are you working in the short term, midterm, long term, or you are on what you want to do in the future? Okay. So right now, you can see, for example, in slide number 2, we are seeing good movement. If you don't have clear how to do that, you can also benchmark on your colleagues' actions that we are seeing here. Okay, next variable, and now we are going to go faster, okay? Depth of change. And here we need to think about how deep is the change that we want to get from our innovation activities. This might also seem a basic question, and in one of the workshops I did, somebody said, everybody will answer the same. And it's not that clear, you see, because you might want to have impact in your day-to-day activities by doing some improvement, creating efficiencies in the current business. Maybe you want to explore a new value proposition in the current market, or maybe expand in a new market for the current value proposition. Or maybe you are looking into a total disruption. In BBVA, we said that we wanted to transform the financial industry. The strategy is a complete disruption. We want to go outside the borders of our own business right now. There are some other companies that are being disrupted and want to go ahead of that disruption. But there are some others that say, hey, no, I don't have enough time and resources to do everything. I want to improve and transform. That everything is valid. The only thing is that you are deciding it with an active mind and not just doing everything by inertia, you know? And so mark in your own presentation in the left side what you are doing in the present with a triangle, and in the left side what you want to do in the future with a circle. It doesn't need to change. It might remain the same. As long as you are deciding it actively, it's okay. Okay? The next variable is certainty of result. The certainty of result is how much are you willing to have failure or to have uncertainty. And I was talking about that before. In some places they say, yes, we do innovation, but please let me know what are the exact results and the business model behind this. No? Okay, but if we are doing this, then you don't have any risk appetite, you know, and so the things that we can explore are more conservative. You know? And this is one of the sources of a schizophrenic strategy that I was talking about before, because some people say, I want to disrupt, but with defined results. No? So think about what's the certainty of results of the projects that you are working in, and the risk appetite that there is around these projects, and what it should be in the future. What can we work around it? And later on, when we analyze, we can devise strategies to make sure that we go to the desired future. Okay? Next variable is strategy. Let me see how you are doing in the presentation. Are you moving around your dots? Yes, it's moving. Perfect. So, next slide is the collaboration strategy. There are, of course, many other models, but this is a simple exercise to think about this. Do we want to own the innovation that we are working on? Do we want to join with other existing businesses, or we want to co-develop and do together? I don't necessarily need to acquire or make it my own, you know? And there are many different models. For example, Apple let others use develop the apps for all the mobiles and whatever over their own platform, and they don't need to acquire every possible app, no? So they are in a partnership, maybe co-developing a strategy. So it's licit to do any kind of mix as long as you are consequent and integral into your own decision. So think about what you are doing in the future. Do you want the ownership of everything, of every innovation, or you are partnering, or you are co-developing with others? Okay. The next one is geography. And in geography, maybe in smaller companies, well, no, I'm not going to say that. So in geography is the size of the impact that you want to do. Where do you want to affect? Do you want to affect your own country or the country where your business is focused? Do you want to impact a broad region, or do you want to have a worldwide impact? And so following the example with BBVA, we wanted to for example, even the motto is bring the era of opportunities to everyone. And it doesn't say only in the countries that we have presence on or whatever. No, everyone. And everyone means global, worldwide. No? Then maybe there are some other examples. For example, in Spain, we have Mercadona, where they are setting a new model or a new way of doing retailing in the country, and they are focused in the country. No? Maybe there are some cases in Latin America that they say, I want to create this impact for the Spanish-speaking world or for all Latin America. I don't mind the full world, but I want to work even with countries where I don't have presence currently. So think about what you are doing. What kind of impact do you want to do? Is it only in your country or your current business zone, in your region, or a global impact? And what's the vision of the future? Next variable is property. And this is similar to the acquisition variable we had before, but in this case is who owns the innovation, not the company, but the innovation, the results of what we are doing. Do I want to own it 100%? Do I want to do some revenue share or some sharing scheme that I can do with others? Or I don't mind, it can be others because I don't need to own it, I only want to use it. Okay, so mark in the left what you are doing currently, and in the right what you think it's a good future strategy. Are we good? Okay, let's go to the next variable. And now we are talking about open innovation. And so when we said that we are creating bridges, building bridges for innovation to flow, this flow, of course, has a direction. So inside out is when I have excess of anything and I expose it for others to use. Or and a good example of this is, for example, the APIs platform. Is I have some technology, I create APIs, and I expose them in platforms for others to build. No? Maybe it's outside in. I need to absorb this innovation to do something within my company. And here we might see any of the startup programs in the world when corporations look for startups and say, I want to use your service because I don't know how to do this, no? For example. Or it can be bidirectional. Of course, you can do both things. Then we go to the next variable, which is internal, external. They might seem the same, but there are slight differences. So even so in this case, do you want to use your internal teams to develop this and you want this to remain within the boundaries of your organization? Or are you willing to collaborate? Thank you, Alvaro, thank you. Or are you willing to collaborate with others? And so, or maybe you want to have a mix. There are some companies that don't want to collaborate with others, or they want to take a special care of specific elements of the innovation, so they go for internal. Everything is okay as long as you are deciding it actively. The next one is scope of action. Is similar to the geographical activity, but in this case, it's about companies. Do we want to affect only our company? Do we want to impact the full sector? Or even we are looking to impact other sectors? So here we see many examples. For example, Amazon is impacting many sectors at the same time, no? Or as I was saying before with BBVA, they wanted to impact the full financial industry, not only the bank. Okay, then we have the level of impact. Who is involved in the innovation process? Do we have the decision makers, the CEOs? Do we have the executive and those who own the budget and the projects involved? And the last one is, do we have involvement in the general ecosystem, the global base of employees, or the vast majority of the crowd? And this is interesting because sometimes maybe you have the ecosystem enthusiasm and you need to involve the decision makers, or sometimes it's the decision maker or the CEO or whomever that says, let's do this, and then you need to create the culture all the way down. Then the impact of intended results, which is you need to think about what you want to impact in the current innovation activity. Do you want to create efficiencies internally, improvement in processes? Do you want to create new products? Do you want to go to new markets? Or do you want to create new business models? And not all innovation efforts are the same. So it's important to realize and actively decide what you want to work with. And the last part is the stakeholders. So who are we collaborating with? With corporates, with the startups, with investors, with universities, with the government, or with hubs, which are the elements that I explained before. And maybe you're a startup and you want to collaborate with other startups, or you want to work with corporates, or you need the support from the government, or if you are a student, even you can look into the collaboration with any of these players. Maybe how can we generate knowledge and distribute it to the startups for them to apply it, for example. And that's it. What do you think? Let's see how we did in filling out the material. Let's see what we got here. So we have, for example, the slide number 4 is really nice. Cool, Marcus, I like. Look how interesting is the different variables that we have, and even the different ways to use the slides. We have some questions at the bottom, and these questions are for us to also think about what are the main strengths that we have, or maybe even the excesses that we have, and what are the challenges that we have right now, or what do I need help with? And then for questions about what's the satisfaction with the results with my current innovation strategy from 1 to 5, and you move one of these circles. What's the need for a change that we have right now from 1 to 5 as well? And maybe you are satisfied with your results, but you realize that it's important to create a change. And that's also perfectly reasonable. And are you a leader or a follower? And there's no shame in being a follower. In fact, that's some of the most common strategies, no? But you need to make an active decision about that. And what's the open innovation maturity in your own company from 1 to 5? Okay. So now it's a moment to share. I don't know if anyone wants to share what they've done. I can show the slide here, and I can invite you to join in to explain what you did, or your own reflections. We can take maybe 20 minutes or 15 minutes to discuss among the group. Anyone wants to share? You can either explain why you filled your slide like you did, or you can ask questions, or maybe give some insights of the ideas that you came up with while doing this. Don't be shy. Okay. If no one wants to do this, because I know this is awkward and maybe we are not ready, if anyone wants to do it, or maybe during, from now on, you want to say your opinion, let me know through the chat and I will invite you in. okay? We can, I don't know, are you, let me see. We are finished with the practical feeling of the canvas. Maybe one thing I can do is share with you that I've done this exercise right now with 105 corporations from different countries, and everyone has their own perspective, and we've learned many different things, or how do you say, like we did many reflections while feeling this. And so the results right now for or the general conclusions that we got up to right now is, first of all, that it seems that if you ask in the same company to different people to answer to this, you will get as many different results as people participating here. But the interesting part is that when we begin debating, then we begin to create a common understanding between everybody and a common place for discussion. So we can sit now with the CEO and say, hey, if we don't have a clear relationship between the risk appetite and the investment we need to do, then we won't be able to achieve our objective. So it's interesting as a communication tool within the same people of the same company. The second learning that we got is when we gather many people from different sectors or different companies, this is an excellent way to share knowledge and to learn on what others are doing in their business. And so we can ask, hey, I didn't know that you were looking into an acquisition strategy. Why do you do that? And so maybe this is a great conversation starter, and many good debates have begun with this. And finally, we also used once to have a way to discuss among different parties about what we want to do. Meaning that if I am a startup, maybe I can go with the corporation and tell them, you know what? I don't want to share the business. I'm looking for somebody to buy in the future, and I'm looking into the disruption side of things. And if it happens that the company also wants to disrupt and they want to buy, then we are in the ways of understanding. But if we don't ask from the very beginning what will be our strategy, then there will be a disalignment. Okay, so it's also a helpful tool to align the collaboration among different players. Okay, so these are the learnings I had from using this platform. And so let's go back. You can close the Google slide, and you will be able to save it and use it for your own, as I was saying, as long as you cite me there. I'm happy also to help later on. I just wanted to finish and use the last part of the session to share with you the next elements. So we were looking right now at the first dimension of this 3-dimension of open innovation. I will tell you a little bit about the second two. So let me see, I didn't do it right. Okay, share application window, PowerPoint. Okay, so the second dimension, let me drink a little bit of water. The second dimension is what I call the PopK. PopK, because it was fun, because at the beginning I had the words in a different order, but it goes for processes, organization, procedures, and KPIs. This means that we need to make sure that the organization is structured in a way that allows the strategy to happen, okay? So what processes, organization, and procedures do we have? And make sure that they are aligned to help the strategy. And looking into the awkward yeti again, we have this drawing that I love, is that every element in the body, in the human body, is different, every organ, but they are working towards the same goal, which is keep the human alive, no? And this is the same thing in the organization. Everybody has their own role, but we need to make sure they are coordinated and aligned. For this, we won't see them today, but I also have some canvases analyzing the areas of or departments or teams or organizations involved in the innovation process. And if they are involved right now, do we need them in the future? Are they critical? Are they siloed? Do they create a dependency in the innovation process? And we can do that for all the departments in the organization that we are working with. And this is an interesting exercise to begin thinking about what do they need. No, they are also humans and they also have their own limitations and needs. Here, I want to bring the attention to what I call the mystery of the disconnected organization. You can't do this project because there are some regulations that don't allow it, or maybe I can't work with you because it's not in my priorities, or many discrepancies that we have here in the internal organization. The next element, besides the areas or the departments in an organization, is the KPIs. No? How are we measuring success? And here we also have a tool, which I call the Kpi Mapping. And in this tool, what we do is the exercise of thinking, how is everyone measured? How do we measure the success of all the teams involved in the process? And not all the KPIs need to be about money. Maybe some of them are about learning or employee development, or maybe branding recognition or the customer loyalty. Not everything is related to money, and that's important to think about. And also, not all the KPIs should be aimed to the short term. We also need to think about what we want to achieve in the midterm and what we want to achieve in the long term. Moreover, if we are talking about disruption projects, so how do we measure the right kind of the success in all these short term, midterm, and long term? This exercise is really interesting. By the way, everybody tends to put only money KPIs, and by bringing the awareness that not everything is related to money, there's also learning and loyalty and other things, we begin to realize that there are other KPIs buried down in the organization. And here I found the different colors. I'm sorry because this slide doesn't have all the colors, but the different colors represent the kind of KPI variable that we have. So the dark greens are about money. The blue ones are related to customer loyalty. The yellows are about the recognition that you have, and the orange are related to employees. Yes. So, and so here we have the mystery of opposed KPIs. And there's this real true story that I saw. There was this project that was, so there was this product that people were using, and if you weren't, at some point, the customers will get a surcharge if they didn't do anything specific. So I can't disclose all the details, but the customer was being charged by a fee in certain cases, and they found out that the customers, when they got many fees like that, at the end they tend to leave. And this customer attrition was really damaging the bottom line. And so they studied why that was happening, and they devised with an AI mechanism a way to anticipate those possible fees. And the project was amazing, the customer satisfaction was great, and guess what? There was a team who had their bonus calculated in terms of the fees that customers were charged. So when the project was implemented, the other team was not happy because their bonus will be less in the future. And it's not because they are bad people, but because the organization was like that. So we need to have the right kind of KPIs to make sure that everything works towards the same objective. In this case, we needed to change the KPIs for this team and bring them on board of the customer satisfaction KPIs. And so the impact in the growth was even more. And by the way, by connecting this, the bonus for everyone was greater. No? So it's critical that we have, and these things happen by accident in big organizations. So it's important that we have a continuous check that we don't have opposed KPIs. Here also usually find the crabby people or those who are really, really stressed. And that's a good indicator on hidden opposed KPIs. And the third dimension, so the first one was the strategy alignment. The second was the POPK, processes, organization, procedures, and KPIs. And the third one is mindset alignment. So once that we are aligned internally and that we have our mind in check and we have our processes, procedures, and organizations aligned, then we are ready to talk to the others. And we are ready to see if the other is aligned with me and if the relationship that we can have can last for the future. And I don't know if it sounds to you, always when I tell about this, I always think about falling in love and finding a partner. You are always doing the same thing, no? Somehow exploring possibilities, if this makes sense. Do we have the same values? Can we collaborate in the long term? And of course, it's not only this romantic way of looking at things, but also how does this reflect in intellectual property, in the contracts, revenue share, and who will, in the ownership of whatever we create, the ownership of data. There are practicalities and critical practicalities about the relationship. So this, for the heart, this might seem like a magical love and relationship, but in reality, we need to look into the practicalities, no? I love this drawing. And so the first movement was aligned to see in your own strategy if it's aligned, if you have the right kind of integrity between your innovation and company strategy. Then we saw for the internal integrity with the processes, and now we can look eye to eye with the other. And in my perspective, there are some values underlying these dimensions. First of all, we have the integrity because we are aligned. Then we have internal generosity because we share, we collaborate, we open doors, we look for the benefit of the other, we look for the good KPIs. And then we also have transparency while connecting with the other. Here, for me, we explore the mystery of trust. This is the game of making sure that what I expect and what you expect can coexist in the long term. No? And there are so many misunderstandings. I'm sad to say that many startups die in the process of these misunderstandings. No? Because we never discussed at the very beginning that I didn't want to buy you, I only want to use your services, or that I'm willing to absorb your licensing and integrate it in the process, and you don't want to do that. No? So here is, for me, as we were saying in the beginning with the collaboration, this is a human trait, and the really basic value is trust. We need to build in the trust among any of the participants. And these are flows of trust, flows of collaborations, and flows of possibilities of working. In particular, in the startup and corporation world, the startups became, at the beginning, they were kind of a threat. And I remember these conversations like, we need to see who will overcome, who will survive, startups or corporations, no? And many corporations felt threatened by startups. But I think that time is already gone. If somebody still thinks like that, maybe they need to open their eyes a little bit, because right now we know that we need each other, and that the startups are the engines of corporate innovations. There are many ways of doing this collaboration: corporate venture capitals, incubators, strategic alliances, joint ventures, innovation labs, competitions, all kinds of ways of collaborating. And there's also an interesting paper I'm citing here. You know, I'm a fan of Henry Chesbrough. This is another paper he published in the California Management Review. And the two basic dimensions that are involved in the decision on what scheme you need to use to collaborate is, first of all, the equity involvement, meaning how do you want to use your money? No? Do you want to invest or take part in the equity of the other, or no? Yes or no? And what's the direction of the innovation flow? Do you want to absorb the innovation, or you want to put the innovation into the world? And so if you want to do investment and you want to absorb the innovation, then we're talking about corporate venturing. If you want to put the innovation into the world, then you incubate projects and then release them as spin-offs, corporate incubation. If you don't want to have equity involvement, then you can do a startup program just to find collaboration or maybe potential vendors. This is, for example, the BBVA Open Talent that we had in BBVA. And if you don't want to have equity and you want to open innovation that you have to the world, then you create like an API platform, for example, or some other platforms for a startup to use your own IP. Pharmacy companies, for example, have interesting examples of asking for startups to use their own IPs that they are not using. And there are many, many interesting cases around that. This is also a table that I took from that document I told you before. And if you are curious, you can look into it. They discuss about the different variables that are involved into selecting the right kind of a strategy for your company. And also, if you're a startup, to decide how to collaborate with a corporation. This is important because it depends if you want to have them involved in your own equity or not. You want to be unique. You want a short-term relationship or long-term. Okay, I advise you to read this paper. The final thought is that we talked about the time frame and if we want immediate results or not. I told you that there are theories about the horizon thinking. And the horizon thinking is, I don't know if you've heard about it, but it says that we talk about horizon one, whatever is in the immediate future, and the strategy here is to defend. We maintain and defend our core, and we make sure that nobody takes our business. Usually here, you don't want to have any risk, and growth is small. No? You are taking care of your current business. Horizon 2 is more an extension. You're creating either new products or new markets or new regions, and maybe you are willing to take some growth. And the Horizon 3 is the disruption zone, where you are searching and exploring outside your boundaries. It's risk everywhere, but might bring also great profit and great growth. But it's a risk. And this, I bring this forward because corporations usually are, as I said, 70% in Horizon 1, 20% Horizon 2, and 10% Horizon 3. Whereas the startups are the other way around. They are beginning the far side exploration. When they begin in the very beginning, they are here. Maybe in their year 3, they begin to approach the Horizon 2. And when they are working with corporations, they are still in the innovation side, you see? And I like this slide a lot because if you see the startup there, they are the other way around. And even venture capitals are also always looking into this future. And this is for me like a game of the men are from Mars and women from Venus. This creates a lot of misunderstanding because corporations don't understand why the others don't see the problems in regulation. And these guys say, why do you only focus on regulation? We are looking into the future. Let's work for the new regulation. And we need to find ways for these guys to understand. And this is part of the common misunderstandings that we we have in the day-to-day collaboration. As I said, this collaboration also needs to look into practicalities. Intellectual property is the first one. In many businesses, maybe service businesses, intellectual property is not that important, but in some others it is. But there are other sources of collaboration, or important questions that we need to ask. How do we share the revenue that we generate, for example? Who will own the new product? Who will own the new customers? Who will own the new data that we have from here? And these are things that we need to discuss in the very beginning, because later on the wars and the discussions are really difficult. So this is the three-dimension scheme: the strategy, POPK, and mindset alignment. And for me, if we do a serious exercise and thinking about these three things, then we are doing an interesting exercise to really be open and to accelerate the rhythm of integrating innovation and creating value with others. I always like to thank the awkward Yeti, but I want to leave with the reflection. I think it's a deep knowledge, and paraphrasing who was this guy who said that I know nothing. I know that I know nothing. But nowadays we can say that we know that we don't know everything. By pure mathematics, there is more talent outside organizations than within organizations, just because even the biggest corporation doesn't have the whole population inside, no? So we don't know everything. Socrates, thank you, Maiden. We know we don't have all the good talent. We know we can't do it all, of course, because we have our priorities and limited resources and limited time. And we are in the bubble of knowledge, skills, and technology, because we are biased by what we do, what we know, and what worries us every day. And this is different from the other bubbles that others live around. And this is what open innovation is about, connecting these bubbles. And if we also explore the concept that technology is not the important, but the ways of collaboration, I also propose you, and one call to action is to change the customer-centric view to the human-centric view. So we are not thinking about customers, we are thinking about humans who are not divided by sectors or by verticals. Humans are humans, and they are a mix of everything. And if we think from the human perspective, then we begin to think about these human qualities like collaboration and generosity, which were the values that I was telling you that are involved in the open innovation process. So we are, and also in this exponential thinking that I was telling you before, and this abundance thinking, it creates generosity and creates the generation of value for everyone. And this is also a value from which humanity has grown since the very beginning. And it's exciting to think that we can bring this value deep into the technology and innovation thinking. I am friends with Mapuche, which is a psychologist that I admire a lot. And she says one thing, that in order to collaborate, we need to follow what God gave us, a simple rule of biology, which is we need to listen and look twice as we talk, because we have 2 ears and 2 eyes, but only 1 mouth. And that's another way to looking at generosity, the generosity to listen to others and to be able to learn from what they do, you know? And I think this is also an important value to integrate in the collaboration mind thinking, you know? And then if we're talking about this human-centric perspective, that and realizing and considering all the time that we are humans collaborating and innovating, we need to think also, and Inma also says this, that humans are like plants. Everybody needs the same, but in different doses. Plants all need water, they need soil, and they need sunlight. But each with their own measure, and it's not the same thing, a cactus than a ficus, and everybody needs their own thing. They are plants, and we need to be open to learn what's the kind of mix that every individual has and needs. And this will also ensure the level and quality of collaboration. And for me, at the end, this shows that sharing is caring, and that open innovation is collaborating and is a human and humanistic activity. And yes, this is why the cultural dimension is fundamental. Of course, we need to consider the internal culture, how is the company, how are the people, how is the country, and all the different problems that people have in mind. Yes, of course, Maiten. Good participation. Well, this is it. I'm open for questions, comments. What are you thinking about? Do you think this is relevant? Do you think that it makes sense? Anything to add? If you want me, I can invite you to the screen, or you can write it here in the comment zone. Thank you, Mr. Well, I'm open for conversation. I'm more than happy well, thanks first of all for your patience, because listening Marisol talk for 1 hour and 24 minutes, it's a lot. I have fun doing this experiment and this exercise. Of course, we need to do a lot of collaboration, but I think that my call to action, Maria, in this case, is that we need to do collaboration looking into the value that we are creating. So, and I like a lot of initiatives that we have, but if we make sure that with every collaboration that we do, we leave some value behind, then we are building a better world each time. Thank you, Miguel. Thank you. About the connection between innovation and collaboration, it's an interesting concept. And yes, well, feel free to reach me out. My webpage is marisolmenendez.com. My LinkedIn is open. And thank you very, very much for connecting. And thank you for joining me here at my home. And I hope that you all stay healthy and safe. And let's meet in the future. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Bye.